Hi guys, welcome back to the next part of the series. Today we're gonna continue with the axe or the actual blade of the element. So I'm gonna press Alt and Q to jump into this guy right here. Now this is the active tool. And if you remember, this tool actually is working, or we're using a slightly different workflow. Instead of doing the remeshing where all of the polygons are really crazy, we're still keeping our very nice topology. And over here on the modifiers, we're using the multi-res modifier. So I'm gonna subdivide this once more, and I'm gonna do it one more time. So as you can see, we're in 242,000 polygons, and I don't want to change too much about this. Again, talking from the design perspective, you don't want to be doing like a lot of crazy things with this axe right here. We want to keep it simple, but we still want to add something so that it doesn't look like it was completely made with a CG software or like a 3D software. So I'm gonna go to my scrape brush right here. I am gonna use symmetry, and I'm just gonna like, is that the scrape brush? Yes. I'm just gonna like do or try to flatten that. It's not really working. Did I open something that I shouldn't have? Did I change this? There we go. It seems like I changed the positive and the negative. There we go. So as you can see, I'm just going to add a couple of hits here and there on a couple of different parts, especially here on this like inner sections, so that we get a slightly more stylized effect. We're going to be texturing this in a sort of realistic way, but this sort of like damages to the border really helps to sell the fact that this axe has been through some battles, right? If you have shapes or elements that are very, very clean, very, very what's the word, geometric, it immediately like tells that you're doing this with a CG software or a 3D software. So it's very, very important that we try to clean this up a little bit. As you can see, this point right there is having some issues subdividing. So let's like kind of like clip it a little bit here with our tool, so we make it a little bit easier for itself. Let me just make sure that. Oh, wait a second. Did I not activate? Oh my god, I did not activate mirror. I have to go back, because otherwise we're gonna have issues later on when we do the texture bakes. Now, another thing that's important about this this asset is that since we already have a very complex stone like element over here with the volcano, we want to keep the element a lot simpler. And there's a very nice rule of thumb. This was taught to me by a very, very good teacher. He used to do the animations and the character design for this heavy metal cartoon that used to air in Adult Swim. I don't remember, Metal Apocalypse, I think it's called, or something like that. Anyway, he was a designer, and one of the advices that he gave was is when you're designing something, or when you have something that's going to be seen by people, if you already have a lot of detail on the model or on the element, you want to keep your textures simple. So the texture of the rock is just going to be a rock texture. It's just a black texture, maybe a little bit of metal edge wear, and that's it. Like, we're not going to do anything complex with the rock. However, if you have something very simple like this profile here for the axe, that's where you can go really crazy, as you can see here with the glows and the different elements of our object. So it's a really, really, really good rule of thumb. I think I've been using it quite a bit, and that is, if you're going to have a really complex sculpt, keep the texture simple. If you're going to have a really simple sculpt, go complex on the textures. You can also think about this. The example he used to give us was Aliens from Predator, and actually let me bring some reference here. So if you look at Alien, right? The silhouette from Alien is really, 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 really complex, like super complex. The sculpting is super, super, super complex. However, the material is just like this dark plastic, right? So you don't need to worry about doing any complex materials. It's just this shiny black plastic. And in contrast, if you think about Predator, for instance, Predator. There we go. You're gonna see that his silhouette is very simple. It's just a human. It's just a human wearing our armor. And that's the reason why you can go really complex on the texture and on the details and on the different types of materials and like just like layers upon layers upon layers of things. So again, keep that in mind. The more complex your object, the less texture you wanna give it, because then it's going to be like pretty much just noise. And the more simple your object, the more interesting you can make it. Now, one of the things that I see here on this element is that it actually has some really like massive like cuts on certain areas, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. But we're actually not going to be sculpting them. We want to have a lot of, in this case, we do want to have cleaner cuts. So I'm going to go back to layout. I'm going to turn off everything else so that we don't overload Blender for now. Actually, let me do a save right here with a file. Save as, and let's just give it one more number. There we go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna display this on the viewport so that we can see what's going on, and we're gonna be using booleans to cut out some of these elements right there. So I'm gonna press Shift A. I'm gonna create mesh. I'm gonna create a cube. In this cube right here, I'm gonna rotate this on the x-axis 45 degrees like this. Then I'm gonna go to number 3, and we're gonna scale this down on the z-axis so that we get scale on z. Oh, wait, Control A first to apply transforms. There we go. And then we scale on Z to make this very, very thin. So as you can see, we're pretty much making like a knife that we're gonna be using. This section right here is what we're gonna be using. I still want to make it a little bit thinner, so we're gonna go really, really, really thin. Let's go even thinner right there. There we go. Perfect. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this so that we get the exact cuts that we want. You can see that the first cut is right here on one of like the let's call it like the weak areas of the axe, which is right around there. So I'm going to use a G and just position this, rotate it if necessary, to generate the cut right there. And then I can see a smaller one on the bottom part. So I'm just going to Shift D, duplicate this one, and rotate this a little bit to have it right there. And I don't see like there's this other big one right there, so I think I'm going to use that one. So Shift D again, rotate, and a G to move it right there. Now this one, I actually want to scale this. I'm going to scale this on the Y to make it a little bit fatter. I'm just going to G and position it right there. So as you can see, these 3 shapes right here are going to be cutting into my axe, and they're going to be giving me some really, really nice details. Unfortunately, if we're going to be using booleans don't really play well with the multi-res resolution. So since we've already used it, and since we're going to be doing some like retopology, I'm going to go ahead and just apply the multi-res so that this is now the new like final geometry, if you wish. I'm going to grab all of these 3 guys, Control J, so they're the same one, Control A, and apply all transforms. I'm not sure why my little screencast is not open. Sorry about that. So there we go. So Control A again, or sorry, Control J to combine them, and then Control A to freeze the transformations, or just like set the transformations. And now we're going to grab this guy right here, and we're going to do a modifier called a Boolean modifier, which is this one right here. And in the Boolean modifier, we're going to select the other object, which is going to be this guy right here. And as you can see, we immediately get the proper silhouette. So I'm just going to say apply. And with that done, if I delete this guys right here, as you can see, now we do have the cuts on our element. The only problem is that we actually don't have the inner side of the elements, okay? So we do have this guys right here, but we don't have the inside. Now, it's gonna be pretty much impossible for us to like bridge these guys together, because as you can see, the topology might not follow perfectly as what we might expect. However, one thing we can try is we can try to go into remeshing and increasing the remeshing quite a bit. So let's go into sculpting, and once we're here, let's go to remesh, press R. We definitely need to make this really, 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 really tiny, quite a bit more, probably like 0.05 seems like a good number, and we're gonna press Control R. Oh, okay, so the reason why this is not working is, again, because this thing right here does not like booleans. It does not like when an object is like infinitely, it's a non-manifold geometry because it has an empty element. So here's how we're gonna fix this. So the way we're going to solve this is actually rather simple. The only thing that Blender needs to do a proper remeshing is it needs to understand that this is a solid object. So we're going to go with Tab into our modeling options right here, and then I'm going to select the lines right here, all of this guys, and I'm going to press F. Just be very careful. You got to select all of the lines going all the way to the corner. Just hit F. And then Alt and click, and then F again, and there we go. As you can see, this has completely filled. Even though this is an Angon and it's a horrible face that we never want to have, it's going to solve the issue for us. And then this one right here, do the same thing, F, and then this guy down here, F, perfect. And then this little one right here, I'm actually a little bit hesitant about the result that we're going to get with this one right here, because it's very, very small, and we're going to have to go either like super, super high on topology or do something, because otherwise that's not going to work. So on the remeshing, I'm going to change this to 0.002. Let's try 0.002. Let's try a remesh. And there you go. As you can see now, we don't have the error anymore. Yes, we have a couple of things there that we need to fix, but we can very easily just like smooth them out and just like blend them together right there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, our axe has now been transformed into a remesh function. Again, this one right here, I don't love it, so I'm just gonna smooth it out a little bit. And one of the things that I would recommend for this one, because again, when you have two surfaces that are really close to each other, it becomes very, very, very difficult to work with this when we go into the bakes. So I'm gonna use the what's the word? I'm gonna use actually my clay strips and just like do this more of as a hit. So I'm gonna remove a little bit more volume to open up that area a little bit more. This should make the baking process a little bit easier. I still feel like we're gonna have some we call this contamination on the bakes when one part of the object bakes onto the other part. But again, it's such a small part of the object that I don't see too much of an issue. Here, the masking option could also be used. You can go down here and mask one section while you work on other parts of the section. In this case, again, something like that should be more than enough. Again, the important thing is how we see the silhouette from afar, and this to me looks really, really, really good. So yeah, that's pretty much it, my friends. As you can see, we now have, let's go very quickly to layout. We now have a very, very nice blade with some like really interesting effects. And we got the cuts with the booleans. Yeah, I really don't want to add any more details to this thing. And if we check everything else, like look at how amazing this is looking. Not bad, right? Not bad for chapter 2. So again, I'm gonna continue on this chapter, and the next thing that we're gonna be doing is gonna be doing the remaining parts of the hammer. So I want to do the back of the hammer first, because that's gonna give us a really nice idea of where all of the other pieces are gonna be attached to. And once we have that, it's just about modeling all of those pieces, and we're gonna be good. We're gonna be ready to get into the next section, which is gonna be our retopology process. So that's it for this one, my friends. I'll see you back on the next one.